And welcome back to episode 107 of the Weekly Tech Rant with me, Jay.
And me, Carl.
So, Carl, we are having another week of gremlins in the system getting this episode recorded. So,
We are.
hopefully, if you're listening to this and it's live, we've managed to overcome them. If not, then, well, we're talking to ourselves for the next hour or so.
Third time's the charm, hopefully.
It's what they say, isn't it? Third time's the charm. And having burnt my mouth on hot coffee, I'm hoping I can speak throughout the whole of the podcast as well. So, that being aside, we have got a filled show for you this week with, well, we're talking everything from chips to Twitter to Russians to weird processors to again cryptocurrency losing money through, well, I want to say theft, but depends how you define theft, isn't it? And we're also going to talk at the Google event this week, which is pixels, VPNs. Oh yes, and Apple. You're still not doing RCS according to Google. So a nice roundup of that show there. The rumor mill's taking a bit of a well-earned break this week, but it will be back hopefully next week when we cover off the latest news there, including a few acquisition stories that are broken, as well as info from the Meta event. But that's coming up next week. So then, Carl, let's kick off this week's first story, which is all about chips, isn't it? Chips.
Indeed.
No fish, all chips.
No fish, all chips. So Micron, who are quite famous for making DRAM, that goes into your RAM, into your SSDs, they've agreed to invest 100 billion over the next 20 years into fabs in upstate New York.
Yes, it is. Yeah, well known for its technology companies. Let's be honest.
Exactly, it's a bit of an odd place to put it, but yeah, they are kicking off quickly though. So they've signed an agreement, upstate New York. Phase 1 is kicking off next year, where they're going to invest 20 billion in the first fab. That should be complete by 2024. Apparently, it's only just over a year to build it, and actually start full production by 2025.
Not bad. You say it's a funny place to put it, upstate New York, but IBM is famously headquartered in Armonk, which is
well, it's headquartered. Do they have a giant gigafactory there?
I didn't suggest they had a giant gigafactory, but there's a lot of what's the word? There's a lot of technology, and the other place is Poughkeepsie, which is again upstate New York. Again, a lot of technology there. So I don't necessarily think it's a weird place, but it's one of those. So tell me about Micron. They're mainly memory, aren't they?
Yeah, they make all the chips for your RAM, chips for your SSDs. Yeah, and not much to say really. They're a huge company. They're actually building multiple fabs in the US, so this will go nicely with their 15 billion investment in a fab in Bose in Idaho.
Idaho. Yes.
Idaho,
Yes,
yes.
But I just every time, I don't know what it is. I think isn't it potatoes from Idaho, isn't it? There.
Oh, I'm not sure.
But Bose is if I remember my geography, Bose is the state capital of Idaho. Again, a reasonable place to put something. But yeah, I was reading that one in Bose though is
it is going to have
it's going to have the largest clean room apparently ever built in the United States, isn't it? So quite an impressive facility they're putting together.
I think that's it's been built at the moment, isn't it? So again, that should be finished very shortly. But yeah, I mean, so 100 billion investments. So they're doing a 20 billion now. I know the New York State has pledged 5.5 billion in incentives. So that's probably helped them locate there. But they're also expecting to create 50,000 jobs in the area, with 9,000 of those being directly in Micron facilities.
I mean, they're going big, aren't they? But part of me thinks this is definitely part of the exodus of manufacturing from Asia to avoid, what we saw with it.
Or at least diversify. Have half your fabs in Asia, half in the US, and then
and also
if either has a problem,
and it's get on side with the US government.
It is. So that 5.5 billion of incentives was just from the New York State. That's nothing to do with the Chip Act, I think it is, which was one signed by Congress.
Yeah, and I would imagine, Micron surely must be taking advantage of that because the investment they're making
getting some of that, surely, yeah.
You'd have to think that's got to be there with them. So, but no, I mean, given Micron are doing this, we've got obviously Intel, we've got TSMC, I think Samsung obviously as well, isn't it? This is this is quite impressive, but it just shows, I think, the tension we've got. That we've talked about how the show forward in China, Taiwan, that those fabs of TSMC in particular, may not be accessible if obviously China moves with its aggressive moves towards Taiwan. But I think these are not overnight. We've stressed this many a times before. This is not an overnight fix, is it? It takes a long time to build a fab, to bring them up to speed, to bring them up to the right operating capabilities. And 3-4 years minimum before we see this. I think that one in Bose, I think, is scheduled for 24, as you said.
This one for 25, apparently.
Yeah, Intel's ones, I think, are at least 25, aren't they, as well, over in Arizona. So yeah, but impressive work though, given the investment here, very impressive. But funnily enough, I did see something earlier that who else was it? There was somebody that was related to this story. That was it. SK Hynix.
Okay,
they've been granted a 1-year exemption from the US US Department of Commerce restrictions that ban exports of advanced chips and equipment to China.
Yeah.
So along with Samsung, TSMC, they've all been given a year's grace around what equipment that they can export to China.
I'm going to guess they'll be exporting a lot of equipment.
Well, the new restrictions apparently say that you require a license to export to China or transfer domestically within the Middle Kingdom manufacturing equipment and support for DRAM chips below 18 nanometers, NAND chips with more than 128 layers, or logic chips below 14 nanometers. Well, that's pretty much everything. Basically.
Yeah.
And it says, so it was a register. I think they reported that TSMC and Samsung have both got similar deals for them. So for Samsung, they've got 2 plants making chips in China. TSMC have got, they were currently shipping equipment to a facility they have in Nanjing, where they produce 22 and 28 nanometer nodes. So probably like automotive, isn't it, or other
I imagine manufacturing.
So. But yeah, so given that they're allowed to do that, I suppose having Micron build their plants in the US again closes some loops, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, so definitely, I'm interested to see whether or not they got any investment though. That's the one thing I want to know. Did they get any investment from the US?
We'll see. Yeah.
So talking of money, then, Elon Musk. So. Is he buying Twitter? Is he not buying Twitter? Well, apparently he is.
It's a roller coaster. It's a roller coaster. Yeah, he apparently is. And for the original price of $54.20 a share, allegedly. So he's filed with the SEC that he will proceed to closing the transaction on the terms he negotiated with Twitter back in April. But there's always a but, isn't there?
So, always.
And this is as long as the lawsuit that Twitter brought against him, to force him to close the deal, is adjourned even. Twitter, unsurprisingly, are seeking assurances that Musk won't break the merger contract again before agreeing to pause this litigation. Musk did not take too kindly to their response, did he?
No, not at all.
What did he say on Twitter? Twitter will not take yes for an answer. Astonishingly, they insist on proceeding with this litigation, recklessly putting the deal at risk and gambling with their stockholders' interests. Really? Anyway, proceeding towards trial is not only an enormous waste of party and judicial resources, it will undermine the ability of the parties to close the transaction. So, what?
I know, I don't get it.
This was all down to you, Musk, that kind of stopped this and delayed this, wasn't it?
And apparently, apparently some of the letters that were sent had emojis in them, didn't they? And non-legal language in them, the whole thing. It just is a weird situation.
It is.
And I think within one of the articles from The Verge, there was a professor of law at Tulane University who was kind of asked for comment on this, wasn't it? What she puts is, what's ultimately strange about this is the most predictable ending, which it's brilliant, isn't it? But it's it
is, yeah.
You got to ask yourself though, what is going on here? So I think we're seeing here that perhaps this is cheaper for him to buy. It's cheaper for him to buy Twitter than it is to go through the lawsuit, in my opinion.
Could well be, but I mean, there's been several step backs. Last week, I kind of heard. So Musk was doing this whole argument about bots on Twitter and being given bad data, etc. So he hired several companies to do analysis of Twitter's bot numbers. One company confirmed Twitter's numbers more or less exactly, and the other suggested that 11% of Twitter users were inauthentic, but obviously not necessarily bots, just inauthentic. And actually, that analysis wasn't statistically very strong. So his own his own analysis into this didn't really come up to show him what he wanted to see.
No, and I think the other thing is it, you got to look at it from the point of view, is this that actually there was some, is this also a plan from him to get out of the deal as well? Because I'm sure there was something that was written, wasn't there, around the share price of Twitter dropping below a certain point that would mean that he could walk away as well. I'm sure there was something along that.
Or maybe.
The, I don't think this is going to be clean cut because
no,
Twitter don't want him. I don't think he necessarily wants Twitter. The language between the companies shows there's no trust, but it's just all a bit weird. Though interestingly, didn't he tweet though at the start of the month that buying Twitter is buying Twitter is an accelerant to creating X, the everything app, because this is his big thing, isn't it? Is around building this everything app that has all information, all saying, but it doesn't appear to be anything, doesn't it?
Isn't that Google?
Well, he says that X. He doesn't say what X is.
No.
Some speculate that he's trying to replicate. What's the Chinese one? WeChat.
Oh, okay.
Because over in China that does
payments and all sorts of things.
All kinds of stuff. You can read in the news. You can book cabs. I think you can even pay your bills. You say you can go to the doctor. It's unbelievable. But that would never work in America. You can't have that monopoly. No. It just would not work, and it wouldn't work in Europe either, would it?
No.
You're kind of talking the kind of apps that you see in science fiction, isn't it? That's the difference. And I don't think
you're right. I can't see that happening. One, there are too many regulators involved. It's just not gonna allow that one. But the trial was due to kick off the 17th. When's that? Is that this week?
Yeah.
Was that?
It's been pushed.
Monday. Yeah, it's been pushed. The judge, Kathleen McCormick, she's pushed it out to 5 p.m. on the 28th, basically to permit both parties to close the transaction. But if they don't by that point, then it'll be proceeding to trial.
Yeah, it's very, very odd. Did you see some of the other stuff that's come out because of the lawsuit? That's kind of one of the things was around SpaceX and Tesla. So Musk's email accounts at SpaceX and Tesla are for his personal use only, and no one can access those emails without his express consent, apart from legal requirements. And that was at Tesla, and at SpaceX, nobody can access his emails at all without his permission. But apparently other staff members at both companies, the policy make it clear that you have no expectation of privacy.
What odd. Also, I'm sure I read some bits. He does a lot of his business over Signal with self-destructive messages.
Yeah.
Which is kind of illegal because you need to keep those to comply with laws. I think a lot of that is potentially going to come out in this trial if it goes ahead.
There was, and I don't know. So last night in the BBC in the UK, there was a three-part documentary about him.
Okay.
About his life upbringing. It's got interviews from his mum. It's also got interviews from what was his former wife, Tallulah Riley. Was that her? I think wasn't it?
Could be. Name vaguely rings a bell. Yeah.
Something. I've got the name wrong. I'm sure I have now. I know it's Riley. No, it's Tallulah Riley. It's Tallulah Riley. Yeah, because he married her twice. And then his first wife, who he married in the year 2000. Do you know he's got 10 children?
What? I didn't realize he had 10. Wow.
So him and his first wife tried to have a child but they lost it. But I think it was miscarriage. I think early on, and then they went for IVF. This was on the documentary, and they went for IVF, and he ended up with 5 kids.
Holy moly!
Yeah, and then subsequent relationships and marriages have obviously left. That he now has 10 children overall. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a mouse really to
interesting. Well, it's very interesting. Some of the stuff they were saying about him, and I didn't catch all of it in the end, but yeah, it was crazy.
As I said, BBC. I'll have to go watch
BBC
that.
too. And especially around the early days of Tesla and the setbacks, with production and qualities and everything. Yeah, crazy stuff. But there you go. So then, moving on from Elon Musk, then, and and Twitter. Well, let's talk about somebody else, or I say somebody else. Let's talk about some other country that hasn't got a grip on reality, which is, of course, Russia, isn't it? So Russia.
This is an interesting one, isn't it? I was just like, what?
So I mean, So Russia's trying to operate around this concept of digital sovereignty, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And news has come out this week around plans for a state-funded national game engine, wasn't it? Or came out, should I say?
They're kind of looking to replace what Unreal Engine and Unity and engines like that, which are obviously from the West.
It is, but it's hit a bit of a brick wall because some of the reports have suggested that to support all of this, it could require billions of rubles over many, many years of it.
Yeah.
So apparently they've been talking up this whole digital sovereignty message for some time now, haven't they? And there's even a paper published by the German Council on Foreign Relations, which is available to all on the internet. You just type in DGAP, and you can get this. And basically, it's titled that Ambitions, Realities, and Its Place in the World. And it's apparently saying that Russia has this idea of digital sovereignty for two main goals: technological independence and information control. And in the face of glowing conflicts with the West, in inverted commas, and the ongoing crisis of legitimacy at home, the regime aims to secure its stability by subjugating the IT sector. Yeah, that is not going to work, is it? Let's be honest.
No.
Russia's heavily dependent on Western tech. Because
it is, but it likes to have, its Russian firewall round. It likes to have all its, what's the word, dissidents? all their data within its walls. So if you're Microsoft, you have to store your data within Russia, etc. And so it keeps pushing to build its own replacements for things like Google and all these other services.
True, but the problem is it can't fully decouple from the global net.
No, it can't.
And it can't also, the dependency on Western technology, like you say, it can't decouple from that either. Not anytime soon, because it's got consequences for the economy. Well, the economy's, let's be honest, tanked anyway, but it's also got consequences for the systems and services that they use internally. It's not, they're in. I mean, let's be honest, they're not exactly in a good position to negotiate, really, are they?
No, they're not. They're not. So yeah,
this game engine, but this whole game engine though is even weirder though, isn't it? Really, I mean, it's just.
It is. You had is it the Minister for Digital Development, Maksut Shadovey? Anyway, so he's standing before the Duma, Russia's parliament, and basically he's branded this whole saga as a painful story. And basically, the proposal for a Russian engine would be poorly monetized and would cost far more than it would ever bring in. So basically, it's pointless.
I don't get it. I just it's well, I do get it. That's wrong. It is. It's just another, like you say, way to remove any of the Western influences in it. But I mean, of all the things that they could be looking to do, it is the bizarrest thing, in my opinion, isn't it?
It is
absolutely. But somebody has stepped in, isn't it? Apparently,
somebody
a private
believes
investor,
in it. Yeah,
somebody has stepped in to finance this, and it's going to be private finance that will keep it alive. The private investor hasn't been named or identified in any way.
No. It hasn't been specified how much he'll be funding it by. Whether this is the whole thing or this is a starter amount, it's just unclear at this point. But building a game engine is not going to be cheap.
I thought oligarchs spent their money on yachts.
No, they've all been impounded, so they've got to spend their money somewhere else.
Ah, fair enough. So let's just say, make an assumption we're going to get this Russian Unreal Engine then,
Yeah.
What kind of? I mean, what game are you getting? I mean, what kind of games would you get out of the?
Don't know. I mean, what kind of status is this engine going to be? I mean, it's not going to be Unreal Engine 5, is it? Let's be frank.
No.
Maybe Unreal Engine 2 or 1 or Doom.
So I went off and had a read of web pages, and it says this was back in July. There was I think it was on Kommersant, one of the news sites.
Yep.
And it was said developing the basics of video games is recognized as an urgent task.
It's probably not for Russia, really.
It goes on around development of domestic game engine. It goes on that the project can be financed through the grant program of the Russian Federation Foundation, for development of information technologies, RFIT. Experts call the project expensive, but technically possible. The problem is that the expensive ecosystem of software products has been developed around popular engines. The restoration, according to market participants, will require billions of rubles. In addition, the new engine is necessary to adapt the video cards of manufacturers who officially left Russia. So this is it. You're going to build a game engine that won't be supported by anything else apart from your homegrown, somewhat rubbish, device engine.
It's going to be Doom, as I said. That level of graphics.
That is it. It's going to be Doom, isn't it? That's all it's going to be.
Maybe they'll revive 3DFX. It'll be Glide.
Glide. And it says
hardware accelerated 3D. Yeah.
It finishes at this end of this article saying, in addition, game engines need the support of video card manufacturers to optimize their work. The expert notes, and it's far from obvious that Nvidia or AMD will want to do that.
That's a no from us.
Oh, I don't know. Just with everything going on, you just have to think to yourself, what really is happening in some of these conversations? All of this talk of independence, but it's like trying to be North Korea, isn't it? And be like, we've got our own. It's brilliant. Smoke and mirrors. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, right. So moving from one slightly less grip on reality to something which I'm not entirely sure what the hell this is, isn't it? So,
wow, yeah,
this is the Tachyum Prodigy CPU, isn't it? Then, so
it is.
I hadn't heard of this.
No, me neither. But yes, Tachyon is the company, and their Prodigy Universal Processor. They basically just released their white paper. They're going to be actually releasing the CPU soon. Though CPU might not be the right name for it. So it's a universal processor. Basically, it's a GPU, a CPU, and a TPU all in one chip. Basically, there's some wild numbers going on. Okay, so it's built on 5 nanometer. It can apparently outperform most things currently released. So they are saying it's 3 times more powerful than NVIDIA's H100, which is their big data center GPU, in double precision floating point performance, 6 times faster in FP8 performance, 9 times faster performance per watt. It's apparently 4 times faster than Intel's Xeon 8380 in spec rate, the integer performance. And that 8380, that's 40 cores, 80 threads. So it's saying 4 times faster than that. 30 times faster than that same Xeon FP64 performance, while being 10 times more power efficient than its competition. Those are some claims and a half.
I mean, they're not just claims, they are absolutely bonkers, aren't they, really?
They are, but this isn't like an architecture like we've seen before. This isn't x86, this is an ARM. This is its own instruction set. It can emulate x86, ARM, and RISC-V, but it's quite a beefy chip. It's got up to 128 high-performance 64-bit cores running at 5.7 gigahertz, 16 lanes of 16 DDR5 memory controllers. So we're talking high bandwidth here. 64 PCI Express 5 lanes. It can support multi-processors, so 4-socket or 2-socket. So 4 or 2 of those. I say it's completely custom instructions set. So you can run x86, ARM, and RISC-V programs on there, but it will have to emulate those instruction sets, which is a 30 to 40% performance hit. But considering it's clocked at 5.7 gigahertz, and that Xeon I compared it to is only 2.3 gigahertz or 3.4 boost, it should be about on par while emulating them. But obviously, going to native, it should wipe the floor with them.
I mean, that's absolutely bonkers.
It is. I mean, they've got a variety of chips. You can go from 32 cores all the way up to 128 and everything in between. But
I've never heard of these guys.
They've obviously been in stealth. The sampling begins, it says this quarter. So we're in Q4 at the moment. So this month, November, December, sampling begins for the first iteration. Prodigy 2 is slated for 2024, and that's going to be based on 3 nanometers. You're going to have more cores, higher bandwidth, and PCI Express 6. So definitely one to watch. wait till these reviews out. I have no idea
But
how expensive this is going to be.
it just, do you know what this reminds me of? This, I think we've talked about this before. The Cyrix, it just reminds me of the old 686 Cyrix chips,
Yep.
in the way that
Hopefully
they,
a bit quicker than that.
well, a hell of a lot quicker than it. But I just meant from an emulation point of view that
Yep.
if they can emulate this, I mean, are we saying that they can? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. What would you do here? Are they saying that you buy them and it could become a GPU on a board,
Well,
or
yeah, it has all the ability to be a CPU, a GPU, or a tensor processing unit, a TPU. Yeah, because this new instruction set has the capabilities to do either of those on the fly. So, yeah, it's replacing, I suppose, your graphics card from a GPU performance, your CPU, and tensor performance.
what we need to see though is a manufacturer, take these cards and build them into.
Yeah, so I don't know
do.
if these are selling them themselves. I presume they're going to be selling them themselves as part of a complete system. But I don't know. They may be open to other OEMs. I couldn't really work that one out. But I mean, if they're sampling in this next quarter, I imagine for the next 6-7 months, we might start seeing some performance reviews coming out. Maybe.
Yeah, I think it's very likely that we will. I mean, but I'm blown away. I think by what is actually possible here. I think that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this could be this revolutionary jump we need. I mean, and I can see why they've got the emulation there. Yes, you're going to take a hit, but that allows you to test out the architecture while you slowly migrate your programs to it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Just like Apple have done with Rosetta, isn't it?
yeah. Well, exactly. Yeah, very much so. Very so. I mean, if these are real in the sense that they can do what they're saying they can do,
yeah,
then actually could be a real game changer in the market that hasn't existed for a long time.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think
Reserve judgment. I think.
Yeah, that's what I think I was getting at. Yeah, you've got to really reserve judgment here, because if you don't, I think it'd be easy to jump to some conclusion, be like, this is the best thing ever, isn't it?
Yeah.
When actually reality could be that that's not quite. It's not quite, the silver bullet that it appears to be. But no, I'm seriously impressed by what is the potential of this. I just want to see what the reality is and whether the performance meets up to the lovely slides.
If it's even anywhere near that as a Gen 1 product, it will be astounding.
No, you're right. I think it will do. Yeah. But the reality is that we call us cynical. I think it's because we've
been around too long, Jay.
We've seen things here that like have been claimed to be the best thing since sliced bread, but unfortunately, the truth is usually far from, or reality is far from what they say, isn't it? So
yeah, indeed.
Yeah, definitely. But we'll keep an eye on this, and obviously when they get some details, we'll come back and let you all know about it. Okay, then. So moving from Tachyum then to Binance, and shaking my head here again.
Another crypto heist.
So this week, Binance, which is the world's largest crypto exchange. Oh, my dog is obviously having a dream there, shaking its legs. It's had over
slightly smaller now.
Well, yes, as I say, has lost somehow 570 billion. Million. I can't read my own notes. $570 million worth of tokens stolen following an exploit in its smart chain. I mean, what the hell?
I mean, it seems to always be the smart chain that gets it. Was it Polygon was the last one at 600 million or something, wasn't it? Yeah.
Again,
basically,
vulnerability.
They discovered this one. They traded all. They halted all trading, I should say. It's resumed, but the hackers basically got away with 2 million Binance coins. That's obviously their own one they've made up there, but 2 billion anyway, worth 570 million. So according to their CEO, Changpeng Zhao, basically they leveraged an exploit on the cross-chain bridge called the BCS Token Hub, which resulted in extra Binance coins. Basically, what the bridge does, it's a mechanism that converts one token to another. So you can convert your Binance coins to Bitcoin, for example. Basically, they leveraged an exploit there, forged some transactions, and essentially tricked the bridge into moving tokens off the network and into digital wallets. Now, apparently, the majority of the stolen tokens are still sitting in the hacker's wallet, but the hacker did manage to get $100 million worth off the network before it was stopped.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, You've got to ask yourself, this is not the first time this has happened. Why
No.
why is nobody learning from this from other companies that have done it? I mean, I know it's quite complex, but when you read it at a high level, it doesn't
Yep.
sound like it, as I said, tricking, they're basically tricking those British to move the tokens. So there's got to be, surely this should have been spotted or found during proper code
You would have
evaluation.
thought so. But yeah, proper code evaluation. I think, you know, the other big issue it has is this is on the public internet. I'm sure there are many of these issues in our banking systems, but they're all hidden in private networks. They're not exposed to the internet, so no one ever sees them, do they? Unless they manage to break into the network first. This case, it's on the public internet. It has to be for it to work, so it's
Yeah.
far more easy to probe and exploit.
It just, these blockchains are not quite as solid as they appear to be, is it? I think
No,
if you have
no.
something that is, as you say, publicly available for verification, and ability to try transparency, yeah, like you say, a lot of people are looking at it. A lot of people are starting to look at, see where they can go it. So with this then, so just to get it clear then, they now are asking people to stop validating these Binance coins. Is that it?
I
Or
think so. From my
tokens?
understanding, is there are large institutions that are validators for the network, and it's to do with I mean, I could be making this as I go along, but my understanding is it's to do with how much investment they have in it, and they get a larger stake and be able to verify stuff. So they're going to call a kind of a meeting or put to the vote, I presume, the ability to reverse this transaction. But that's too late for that 100 million that's already off the network into another cryptocurrency and probably cashed out already.
Oh, I've had enough of this now. I've been more and more and more of these things. I mean, I was reading about, I think, a podcast, sorry, Netflix on the other week. I was listening to about Quadriga,
Oh
which was
yeah,
that, that cryptocurrency exchange in Canada where the guy died with the
yep,
coins. Well, it
yep.
turns
And
out
no one gets password or anything. Yeah.
no, and it just seems, I mean, obviously, it just again seems to be, he turned out he was a serial scammer, and it just seems to be,
Ah,
I mean, it appears that he's dead, but you can't help but thinking it was one hell of an.
he might have faked his own death. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of questions on that, but it turns out that he wasn't running an exchange, but basically people were buying coins, and then he was then basic using Peter to pay Paul, and then
Oh
getting,
wow, yeah.
yeah, and then also hedging bets on other real exchanges with his customers' money.
Hmm.
It's
Oh wow, yeah.
absolutely crazy, and it just when you hear stuff like this one with Binance, and it's just, again, it just, you can't help but thinking to yourself, there's just no regulation here, is there? No regulation whatsoever.
No, no, not at all, not at
And
all.
then you've got, like, I think I was talking to you in the show notes, that one about crypto.com that happened,
Yes, yeah.
before, where crypto.com paid out $10 million to a customer rather than $100, and then didn't know it's for 7 months because until there was an audit. And the woman then went off and bought $1 million house, gave money to her family, moved the money out of the country. It just what? It's the
Well, see,
Wild West, you know.
people like this. It's unregulated until something goes wrong. Then they want regulators to step in. You can't have
Yeah,
it both ways.
no, you can't have both ways, but it's got to be addressed. That's my personal opinion on it. It's got to
Yeah.
be addressed. All right, moving away then, because we're going to drive ourselves nuts if we talk about any more crypto scams. So then, Google had its Google, was it next event, wasn't it? Is it next
It
event?
was, and I think that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So last week, which they've been working up some time, and there were some big announcements then around Pixel, particularly the Pixel brand,
Yeah.
and with that, we've got 3 new Pixel devices. Oh, well, technically 4,
Well,
isn't it?
boy, I wouldn't say these were a surprise because Google like to
No,
leak their
no.
own information. So when we started off with the Pixel Watch, so after years of speculation, leaked renders, an employee leaving a prototype in a restaurant, it's finally here, and it's a
What do we
bit
got?
lackluster. I mean, it looks really, really nice. Okay, It's 41mm in size. It's got a domed Gorilla 5 glass screen, 320 ppi AMOLED display. It's apparently good for 1,000 nits in brightness, so it should be readable outside. It's got a battery that will apparently last 24 hours and only take 30 minutes to charge to 50%. It comes in Wi-Fi and cellular versions. But that's when I suppose the good news stops, really. I mean, the hardware is a bit on the old side. I mean, it's still running a SoC from 2018.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know Apple's M6, sorry, S6, 7, and 8 are technically all the same chip, but this is even older than that. It comes with 2 gigs RAM, 30 gigs storage, a Cortex M3 33 co-processor to handle, all the health benefits. You've got activity, heart rate, which is an ECG. You've got a sleep tracker, all standard stuff. Apparently, it's coming with fall detection, but that's not till 2023. So they're adding that after, I presume, in software. Then, if you have the LTE version, it will phone emergency services on your behalf. So very much like the Apple products, and it is reasonably priced. But I saw this switched on in a video the other day. And obviously, it's got a round display, not square like Apple's. Those are some chunky bezels.
It looks chunky in the renders.
Yeah.
I can't say I'm overly impressed with it.
No, I think it's that dome. It's like a mushroom on the top, isn't it? Yeah. But when you actually see it, because it's a round one and the interface isn't quite customized for round, it's very obvious when you get to the top or the bottom of the screen, and you can then see how thick these bezels are on it.
It doesn't strike me as it doesn't strike me as overly particularly, I guess, sharp on those on that bezel side. It's when the render's been done very cleverly, especially the official Google one, it's slightly off to the edge, isn't it? So you don't get a sense of it, the light bounce off of it. You say it's only till it's turned on in reality, because then the pictures they've given don't show the edges of it. They're all black.
No, they don't.
They're all very cleverly done. I did also read that it's not going to have the new Fitbit automatic exercise tracking.
Is it not? They kept referring to it as a Fitbit device as well. So it's called a Google Pixel, but it's really a Fitbit. Yeah, so it seems to be branded as, it's an odd one. It's Google Pixel, but they kept referring to Fitbit, so it seems to be a weird branding between the two. And it does sound more like a Fitbit device, if I'm honest.
Well, I think a lot of it's been baked in, as I was saying, wasn't it? I think where they bought Fitbit, they're trying to bake it into the products and that that automatic fitness thing. I read somewhere that it turns out that Google have confirmed it doesn't have automatic exercise detection, which the current Fitbits have. I think for a little while, I think the problem is you've got, as you say, you've got 2 brands here that are kind of overlapping now a little bit, aren't they?
You have, and I think they even include a subscription to Fitbit Premium, is it, or Pro, or whatever they call it now. I had it written down here somewhere. What would they call it? Fitbit Premium, yeah.
Yeah.
So, or integration to Fitbit Premium, and they're including a subscription with it. What is it? A 6-month free trial of Fitbit Premium, as well as a free month of YouTube Music.
Yeah, I have to say, for me, the jury is out on what is off. Whether or not it's going to survive. I wonder. I wonder how they're going to kill it. Because you kill off the Fitbit brand and make it a technology, if that makes sense. And bring it in. I don't know what I don't know
if they can kill off the Fitbit brand though. It's too big. It's too out there. Why not just call this the new Google Fitbit watch or whatever, rather than a Pixel watch? I know it's running Android Wear, not whatever Fitbit's OS is. But why not just call it a Fitbit device, powered by Android Wear or something like that?
Yeah, that would be a good way of doing it. I think there's probably better branding opportunities here than what they've got. But it'd be interesting to see once these get into the customers and people start giving a bit of feedback on it, whether or not they're gonna have to make some changes there. But I don't know. Colors though, matte black, polished silver, champagne gold, nice and traditional color sets.
Yep, indeed.
And there's apparently they have some kind of weird strap system, don't they? That doesn't have lugs, but some
Oh,
what they
really?
call it camera style internal locking mechanism that should make it easier.
Oh,
And they come with what they call the active fluoroelastomer band, but Google reckons there'll be 20 or so choices by the end of spring next year. So there you go.
yeah.
Interesting.
Pricing was a mixed bag. 349 for the Wi-Fi, 399 for the LTE version. So we are kind of in Apple Watch territory.
Are you surprised by that? In all fairness,
No, I'm not. It just seems less of a watch, feature-wise, anyway.
yeah. I think we're in that price point now. I think nobody's surprised because of the cost of things. I think we've kind of that shock I think that people had for a long time. People have got over, haven't they? You know,
Yeah, but I mean, is this a better watch than the SE? I don't know. I mean, it's
I don't
probably on
know.
par. I'm not sure if it's any better, but the SE is cheaper. Although
It
you
is.
obviously have to be in the Apple ecosystem, so not necessarily cheap if you don't have an iPhone.
No, not at all. But and again, it's the relevance of this is only going to be if you're on the Google ecosystem.
Yeah, in that case, you can probably just go and buy a Samsung watch.
Yeah, but then again, if are you going to get all of the benefits of? Well, yes, it's a thing, isn't it? Because of the fragmentation, is it going to be the same experience? I mean, you're going to get Wear OS, but it's not going to be. I don't know. Yes, I have to say, I'm not entirely sure, but I am pleased in one respect that Google have taken the plunge and got themselves back into the watch market.
I
I
have.
think it needed to be done. It needed to be
And
done.
actually, you can have one of these for free if you buy a Pixel 7.
Well, that's interesting.
They are basically throwing it in there.
So talking of the Pixel 7 then, which has
Yeah.
also been announced, which I mean they're not this isn't again, these aren't new, are they? The news it's
They're
been
not
leaked
new from a
so
leak
long
point of
now.
view. We've seen the photos. What
And
we didn't know was what.
even
Yeah,
Google themselves basically gave it away,
they
didn't
did.
they?
Oh, what, 4 or 5 months ago? Well, we didn't know the specs inside, but it
Oh,
seems like.
oh, hang on.
Oh,
I've got Google talking to me now.
shouldn't have said
Sorry,
a name.
no, I shouldn't have
But
done.
yeah, what we didn't know is what was different inside and what the cameras were like, etc. I'm going to say they've pulled an Apple. So, I mean, the 7 and the 7 Pro look almost identical to the previous generation. I think the only design difference is that you've got the camera band on the back. On the
Yeah.
6, it was glass and plastic. On the 7s, it's made of aluminium. If you've got the Pro, it's polished. If you get the non-Pro, it's matte aluminium. But that's it from external appearance. And even inside, yeah, chip wise, again, this is very reminiscent of Apple now. I mean, it's using what they're calling a second gen tensor chip, but it seems very, very similar to the first gen. I mean, it's got the same 6 cores. I mean, the new one's got. It's using a big, medium, little architecture. So you've got
That's what,
two
yeah.
high performance cores, two medium cores, and then it's 8 cores. Sorry, and 4 energy efficient cores. So the big cores, the performance ones, are still X1s. They're running at 2.85 gigahertz as opposed to 2.8 gigahertz on the 6. So you've got an extra 5 megahertz. Yep. We've got the medium ones are now A78 cores running at 2.35 gigahertz rather than the A76s running at 2.25. But the high efficiency cores are identical. There's 4 A55s running at 1.8 gigahertz. So really, there isn't much in it performance-wise. Now, I think they've bumped the GPU from a Mali MP20 to a G710.
Right.
And they are saying there's a new DSP, modem, and TPU, but went into zero detail about what's actually new about them. So Google actually have made no claims about their new phone being faster than the old one. Not like Apple will say compare it to the previous one and make up these silly charts. Google have done none of that.
And this is our best iPhone ever and our fastest
Yeah.
chip ever, based on basically the previous year's iteration, which doesn't really help anybody, does it?
Google have said nothing about that, though. ARM themselves do claim that the new Mali GPU, the G710, is 20% faster than the old MP21. So yeah, should be a bit faster in games and anything GPU related. But other than that, the display spec, the RAM, the storage, the battery are identical. Though Google are claiming the display is 25% brighter, but resolution and refresh rate it's identical. The only real change though is the camera, and that's only if you've got the Pro. If you just buy the normal 7, it's identical to the camera system in the 6. But if you get 7 Pro, you've got a new wide-angle sensor, still 12 megapixel, but has autofocus and macro mode. And the Pro also gets a new 48 megapixel 5x telephoto lens with 30x digital zoom. So really, there's not much in it.
There isn't, is there? It's
No, I mean, even software-wise, the only feature I could see is they've added Face Unlock. But that's not including any new hardware. Like, there's no dedicated scanning chip like the iPhone has. Instead, it just uses the front camera and machine learning. So Google are classing this as a class 1 convenience biometric and not a class 3 strong biometric like a fingerprint reader is. So really, It's not to be trusted.
I love that. Yeah, we've got this thing, but yeah, we don't recommend you trust it.
Yeah, if for convenience only, it's not going to keep your phone secure. I don't know. I mean, other than that, the pricing stayed the same, which is good. I think it's starting at $599 for the Pixel 7 and $899 for the Pro. It's now available in 17 countries, so still affordable. Not an expensive phone, just not a lot has changed. So it's very much like the iPhone 14, I suppose, which is identical to the 13 with some minor upgrades.
Yeah, and I think didn't we see some numbers over there around how many pixels they'd shipped? Wasn't it like 25 million or something? It wasn't very high, was it?
It's a bad month. Yeah, that's total. That's a bad month for Samsung, kind of in comparison.
Yeah, and that was their overall general number was around the 25 million mark.
But so this is the showcase what you can do with software and hardware together to push Samsung out a lot to lower prices and to show them what's possible. It's a showcase thing. It's like Microsoft and their Surface range, isn't it? It's a showcase to show the art of the possible.
You're right, and this is what we expect. This is what we should be seeing from the devices. You're right. It's about keeping the manufacturers in line to say, well, actually, this is our vision. What you've done is bizarre.
Yeah. And this is pure Android. You've just butchered it.
Yeah, this is what we love, and we wish you'd do more of. Cough, cough, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. So no, I think it's a nice looking phone. I agree, it really doesn't differentiate much from the 6, but it's got some flashy metal around the cameras. It looks fun.
Yeah.
But I will say, having used Pixels, they are nice phones, and as you say, it is a combination of hardware and software which gives you the experience. So yeah. I'm not going to knock Google for doing that. I will say kind of a pat on the back to say well done for not trying to flash. Everybody say that this is the best thing since sliced bread, because the reality is it clearly isn't. So
no, exactly. So Apple, take note on that one.
Yeah, definitely. Well, good luck with that.
Oh, one other thing you did get: Google are going to throw in a free VPN service with any Pixel 7 and 7 Pro. So you're basically going to get Google's, is it One VPN? It's the same VPN you'd get in the Google, is it Premium One plan or whatever they call it?
Oh, yeah.
So no extra cost apparently. For how long they didn't say. There's some odd caveats though. No, it's not available in all countries the Pixel's sold, and not all traffic will go through it.
Well, this is the question, isn't it? So kind of a related story, isn't it, is that more information's come out around the Apple VPN service and what data that leaks, isn't it? And then 2 days ago there was another article came out that was saying that Android even leaks traffic when the always on VPN's enabled. So they're about as good as each other, aren't they, really?
Yeah, both Apple and Google don't really get VPNs, and it's meant to encompass all traffic.
And Google responded saying it's intended functionality for Android, and it wouldn't be fixed because many VPNs, according to them, actually rely on the results of connectivity checks to function. The checks are not the only riskiest exemptions for VPN connections, because this is one of the things it was leaking was connectivity checks. And it says the private impact is minimal, if not insignificant, because leaked information is already available from an L2 connection, along with the other data that it's also dropping. So. Yeah, but I mean, if you're not worried about that, then bundling it in is definitely not a bad thing. It saves you some cash, isn't it, from their one system? Their one
does indeed, yeah.
So what else do we get? Tablets, Pixel tablets. Then
Yeah, it's an odd one. I didn't think I'd ever see Google go back to a tablet. And this isn't an
you've
announcement.
turned.
This is another sneak peek, isn't it? A bit more of an update on the new Pixel tablet. And I mean, what did they? I mean, they showed off a new speaker dock, didn't they?
They did. It was
Plugs
quite
into
nice.
it's a
Yeah,
charging
it's quite
speaker dock. Yeah,
quite nice looking actually. I thought it was
and I suppose it basically turns it into a giant what are Google's
home,
voice
a
assistant?
Nest, isn't it? Yeah,
Nest Home. Nest
yeah,
Max.
yeah.
It looks a bit like a Nest Max. I think that's the word, isn't it? The one with the giant screen on it.
I mean,
and
it's
the
a
speaker
pretty
behind
looking.
it. Yeah.
It's a nice looking device. I like those rounded sort of chamfered edges, isn't it? It looks smooth to the touch, and the
Yep.
screenshots they gave away of what's it Android tablet mode, isn't it? I can't remember what they call it.
The tablet version. Yeah, I know what you mean.
It looks nice. The real that kind of there's a screenshot, isn't there, with like a bird and green icons. To me it looks classy. It looks a classy
it's
device.
L, isn't it? It's Android 13.
That's it. L for like large, isn't it? Yeah. But
yeah, I mean, that's all they've shown us. They have said it's going to be coming out in 2022, and there's going to be obviously a better look closer to the launch date. But yeah, it's a magnetic dock they've shown us, but the tablet sticks on. Not much more to say.
They kind of announced it back at I/O. It was using the screenshots.
Yeah.
They were saying that we're 20 plus optimized Google tablet applications already, but they didn't really give much away, did they? Beyond the fact that it's powered by the same Pixel 7 Tensor G2 chip. The apps have been done there. It's the speaker dock was because they reckon it doesn't leave the house, doesn't it? So they quote something like 80% of the time tablets are in the house.
Yeah.
So if it's in the house, why not give it a posh place to sit? Yeah, fair point. I like your thinking, in that sense. But yeah, I'd like to see one. I won't lie to you. I'm curious to see one. I want to have a look at one of these when they come out.
Yeah. I mean, and I think the final thing, Google couldn't leave it alone, could they? They had to poke the bear about RCS. So they kind of finished the event by making fun of the competition or having another go about actually calling out Apple's name. I think they said, when it comes to text messaging, Pixel uses RCS for enhanced media sharing and end-to-end encryption. RCS is a modern industry standard for messaging, and it's already been adopted by most of the industry. We hope every device maker gets the message and adopts RCS, making texting better for every smartphone user. Hint, hint, Apple.
I mean, you might as well just ring up Tim Cook on stage and be like, Tim, why are you not supporting RCS?
Yeah. So but I think they're going to carry on poking this, aren't they? I don't know if Apple will ever do anything. Apple haven't really responded, have they, to it?
No, I still think it's funny, isn't there? Was it the Code 22 event? Apparently, somebody said to Tim Cook that he couldn't send videos to his mum who's on an Android phone, and Tim said, "Buy her an iPhone." Boom, mic drop, walk out.
There you go, problem solved. Buy another iPhone.
It's like, job done. I'm out of here. Oh no, it's been. I mean, look, I don't think we were expecting much from the Google event. They haven't really disappointed on that front. There's still some good, there's still some good devices out there. They're still making nice reference hardware. The Pixel tablet, personally speaking, I'm looking forward to seeing what that, how that looks.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I'm not entirely sure, whether or not anything else there is brilliant. The Pixel lineup, they're just continuing to iterate rather than innovate, I think is the right statement. But yeah, all in all, I think, hardware is hardware. We're getting there, aren't we? It's all moving along at the right pace. We'll talk a little bit about the next week, the Meta event. Maybe cover the Surface event as well, because that's just finished the last couple of days. Again, iteration rather than evolution, but I think it's probably worth at least comparing against what we've got there in the market. And of course, Apple are due to, at some point, release as and
some new MacBooks and some iPads.
Yeah, but we'll see. On that note, I think it's probably a good place for us to wrap up for today. Of course, you can find us online at techrant.online for all our show notes information. We're on Twitter at Weekly TechRant. Please give us a like, a share, a comment, whatever your thoughts. And you, of course, tell your friends about this, and you can find us wherever you get your podcasts from today. Like I said, we'll be back next week for episode 108 as we head towards the end of October, a couple of weeks away. Can't believe it. And probably, wonder if there's any Halloween scares in the following week. Who knows? Carl, I couldn't resist that. I'm sorry. So I've been Jay.
I've been Carl. Have a good evening, all.